$200 a month sounds like a car payment, not a path to $1 million. But compound interest doesn't care how impressive the starting number looks. It cares about two things: rate and time. And on a long enough timeline, $200 a month at a reasonable market return doesn't just approach $1 million, it blows past it. Today I'm going to show you the actual math behind this, explain why starting early matters more than earning more, tell you exactly where to put the money so the compounding works in your favor, and cover the flip side, because the same mathematical force that builds wealth can devastate you if you're on the wrong side of it. Let's make sure we're starting from the same place. Simple interest means you earn returns only on your original deposit. You put in $1,000 at 5%, you earn $50 per year, forever. Compound interest means you earn returns on your deposit and on every return that's already accumulated. You put in $1,000, earn $50 in year 1, now have $1,050, and in year 2 you earn 5% on $1,050, not just $1,000. The base keeps growing, and so does each year's gain. The famous analogy is a snowball rolling downhill. At the top of the hill, it picks up a thin layer of snow with each rotation. At the bottom, that same rotation covers the entire surface of a massive ball. Early on, the growth looks invisible. Years in, each rotation adds more than the entire original snowball weighed. Compound interest works the same way. What makes it mathematically powerful, and counterintuitive, is that the growth is exponential, not linear. Our brains default to thinking in straight lines: add 200 this month, add 200 next month, add them up. But compound interest curves upward, and the steeper the curve gets, the faster the curve bends steeper still. The numbers in year 30 are not 3 times the numbers in year 10. They are 10 or 20 times larger. Let's run the numbers. $200 per month, invested at an 8% average annual return. 8% is a reasonable, historically supported assumption for a diversified U.S. stock index fund over long periods, not guaranteed, but a conservative baseline for planning purposes. At 5 years, you've contributed $12,000. Balance, roughly $14,700. Small gains. The snowball is barely rolling. At 10 years, $24,000 contributed. Balance, roughly $36,000. The gap between what you put in and what you have is widening. At 15 years, $36,000 contributed. Balance, around $69,000. You now have nearly twice what you contributed. At 20 years, $48,000 contributed. Balance, around $118,000. Almost 2.5 times your contributions. At 30 years, $72,000 contributed. Balance, around $300,000. The compounding has added more than 4 times what you put in. At 35 years, $84,000 contributed. Balance, around $450,000 to $500,000, depending on timing and sequence of returns. At 40 years, $96,000 contributed. Balance, $700,000 to over $1 million. You personally invested less than $100,000. Compounding provided the other $600,000 to $900,000. You contributed roughly 10 to 14% of the final number. Time and math did the rest. This is where compound interest stops being an abstraction and starts being urgent. Compare 2 people. Both invest $200 per month at 8%. Both stop at 65. Person A starts at 25. 40 years of contributions. Total invested, $96,000. Final balance, approximately $700,000 to $1 million. Person B starts at 35. 30 years of contributions. Total invested, $72,000. Final balance, approximately $275,000 to $300,000. Person A invested only $24,000 more, but ends up with 3 to 4 times the balance. That 10-year head start compounded over decades into a gap of $400,000 to $700,000, from a difference of $24,000 in contributions. Here's an even sharper way to see this. The contributions person A made between ages 25 and 35, just $24,000 over 10 years, generated more wealth by age 65 than all of person B's 30 years of contributions combined. The first decade of compounding, when the snowball is small, builds the base that makes everything else possible. That base cannot be replicated later. More contributions later can partially compensate, but not fully. If you're in your 20s and reading this, the single highest leverage financial action you can take right now is not to research the best fund, not to optimize your tax strategy, and not to increase your income. It's to start today, with whatever amount is possible. Because time spent uninvested cannot be bought back. The where matters almost as much as the when. Not a savings account, those currently pay 2 to 5%, which is useful for an emergency fund but terrible for long-term compounding. Not individual stocks, the volatility and research burden is not necessary when index funds have historically outperformed most active stock pickers over long periods. The optimal setup for most people in their 20s and early 30s. First priority, if your employer offers a 401k with a match, contribute enough to capture the full match before anything else. An employer match is a guaranteed 100% return on that portion. Nothing in investing comes close to that. If your employer matches 50% of contributions up to 6% of salary, that is a 50% instant return. Always take the full match first. Second priority, max out a Roth IRA. The 2026 limit is $7,000 per year, or about $583 per month. If you're starting at $200, that puts you on track to contribute $2,400 a year. Open it at Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. All three have zero expense ratio index funds that let the compounding work without fees eating the gains year by year. Inside the Roth, invest in a broad U.S. total market index fund, or a target date fund set to your expected retirement year if you want full automation. The Roth matters here because all that compounding I showed you, the $700,000 to $1 million, happens tax-free inside a Roth. You never pay taxes on those gains. In a taxable brokerage account, you owe capital gains taxes along the way. Over 40 years, that tax drag meaningfully reduces the final number. A few things people get wrong that cause them to either underestimate or wait. First, you need a high return for compound interest to work. You don't. Even at 5%, a conservative return from a stock-bond mix, $200 per month for 40 years grows to over $300,000. The rate matters, but time compensates enormously for a lower rate. Second, you need a large amount to start. $200 per month is $6.50 per day. Look at your subscriptions, your daily spending patterns, your dining and delivery habits. Many people have $200 available if they audit their spending honestly, not through deprivation, but through redirection. The psychological barrier is not financial, it's the friction of opening an account and setting up the transfer. Third, you're too old to start. If you're 35, 30 years of compounding at 8% on $200 per month still produces over $275,000. Less than starting at 25, yes, but that is a transformational amount compared to zero. The second best time to start is now, regardless of age. Everything I just described about compounding also works in reverse. The same exponential curve that builds your wealth can destroy it when you're on the wrong end. A credit card at 20% APR, the US average is now above 22%, doesn't charge you 20% one time. It compounds monthly. A $1,000 balance where you're only paying minimums isn't just a $1,000 problem. After 1 year of minimum payments, roughly $1,200. After 5 years, $2,500 or more. After 10 years of minimum payments on a balance you never reduce, over $6,000. The original purchase that cost $1,000 has now cost $6,000. Here's the important insight. Paying off a credit card at 20% APR is the mathematical equivalent of earning a guaranteed 20% return on that money. Nothing in legitimate investing produces a guaranteed 20% return. This is why financial advice consistently puts high-interest debt elimination before investing. It's not philosophy, it's math. Compound interest working for you in a Roth IRA and compound interest working against you on a credit card can coexist simultaneously in your finances. But they don't cancel out. The debt compounds faster than most investments grow, and the psychological weight of debt impairs the decisions and habits that investing requires. Eliminate high-interest debt first. Then let compound interest work entirely in your direction. 3 concrete steps, each one buildable on the last. Step 1. Open a Roth IRA at Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. Takes about 20 minutes. Set up an automatic monthly transfer of whatever you can start with, even $50. The account existing and the habit starting is more important than the amount. Step 2. Invest it in a low-cost index fund. The Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, or Schwab Total Stock Market Index are all strong options with minimal or zero expense ratios. If you want full automation, choose a target date fund that matches your expected retirement year. It rebalances automatically as you age. Step 3. Leave it alone. The single biggest threat to compound interest isn't a bad market year or a low interest rate. It's withdrawing the money early, stopping contributions when the market drops, or constantly switching strategies. Set the contribution to automatic, keep contributing through market downturns, which are when you're buying shares at a discount, and let time do the work it's designed to do. Here's what we covered. $200 a month at 8% grows to $700,000 to over $1 million over 40 years, because you contribute less than $100,000, and compounding provides the rest. Time is the most powerful variable. A 10-year head start is worth more than $100,000 more in contributions made later. The right account is a Roth IRA at a zero-fee brokerage, so the entire gain is tax-free. And the same compound interest that builds wealth on investments destroys it on high-interest debt. Eliminate that first. If you want to understand which retirement account captures this compounding most efficiently, Roth versus traditional IRA, I covered that in detail in the last video. I'll link it at the end. Subscribe for more personal finance content that cuts through the jargon. I'll see you in the next one.